13, lecture number 4, 3, sure. Chaliye. So what was the last thing? Okay, it's an online batch also. Huh? Okay, we are on human resources. Chalo. So I think now only the regulatory part and the administrative challenges are left. Settle down fast, everyone, till the time you don't want to go out of the class. Yes. Regulatory challenges. First is poor cyber security policy of 2030. We have already seen enough of criticism of the policy, so we won't discuss it over here. We have already discussed. Second is outdated information technology act. Outdated is as of what? First of all, it does not define a number of cyber crimes. It does not define a number of cyber crimes. Second, it has failed to balance the issue of right to privacy versus national security. It has failed to balance the issue of right to privacy versus national security. Third regulatory challenge could be seen lack of cyber security appellate tribunals. Lack of cyber security appellate tribunal. And last, lack of a sound national electronics policy. Lack of a sound national electronics policy. Lack of a sound national electronics policy. Now the last set of challenges are administrative challenges. Lack of a sound national electronics policy. यही तो था. Lack of a sound national electronics policy. हमारे पास कोई electronics policy नहीं है ना अभी. As of now, you see, I told you in 2012 we had one. It failed. In 16 it was subsumed in Make in India. But as of now we are only talking of a draft which caters to the modern needs. But in fact any such draft has also not been released by the ministry. Time से आया करो सब लोग. हाँ अभी से सरकारी हो गए हो, आदत पड़ गई है. Settle down fast. Need some water? Fair enough. So now last set of challenges are administrative challenges. बेटा जल्दी बैठ जाओ please everyone. It creates distraction over here. Administrative challenges. The first administrative challenges, or you can say first of the all, is the issue of identification of critical information infrastructure. Identification of critical information infrastructure means what? Means, you see, if we talk about the CII, I hope you know the definition part. CII already discussed. If we talk about a few of the major parts or major portions of the CII, critical information infrastructure, like railways, transport, air traffic, or take another example of atomic data. I'm just taking 4. There are multiple number of examples with respect to that. So if we talk about this critical information infrastructure, we have defined CII. But do we have different agencies to deal with this? Do we have different agency to deal with each of the issue? Means, do we have different different agency to deal with the air traffic data? Do we have different agency to deal with transport data? Means if a threat is originating with respect to each of the sector? No. That means what we are missing over here in terms of the identification is the sectoral approach. The sectoral approach means that for different sectors of CII, we don't have different CERTINs, Computer Emergency Response Team India. It is not that we are not having at all. Yes, we are having, a few of them are there. But what we are lacking is the uniformity in terms of those agencies. Second, big challenge over there is resistance to change. Resistance to change. Resistance to change. You already know a hell lot of information about this syndrome. Resistance to change on part of what? On part of the political bosses. In terms of what? In terms of framing a policy. In terms of framing a policy. Second, resistance on part of the bureaucrats. Resistance on part of the bureaucrats. In terms of what? In terms of implementation of the policy. In terms of implementation of the policy. Now, देखिए, despite the fact the global order has already recognized cyber as the fifth major domain of the warfare. They have already recognized cyber as the fifth major domain of the warfare. But in terms of our policy, we are still lacking. We are still lacking a sound cyber security policy. Like last class में हमने क्या देखा? That we have formulated the draft. It has already been more than 24 months of that draft, and that draft has now not been turned into a policy also. Same goes with respect to the bureaucrats too, in terms of the execution. Third, poor center-state coordination. Poor center-state coordination. Poor center-state coordination as of what? If we talk about the state, the primary agency to deal with the cyber threats is police, and this police is unskilled. I'll cut the skill, don't worry. Nothing is the police is unskilled, but it is the primary force. Let's take a very small example. Now tell me, have any one of you been through any of the cyber police stations for filing any of the cyber related complaint? आप में से कभी कोई police station गया cyber related complaint file करने? Just raise your hands if there is anyone. Oh, Sharif logo yaar. Huh? Now, so let me tell you, the very first point of contact that you will go over there is the rank of an officer of constable. सबसे पहले जिससे आप जाके मिलते हैं वो सब constable rank का officer होता है. His qualification is 10th class. In Delhi it is 12th class. In rest of the state it is 10th class. And that to the 10th class which he has done before 40 years or 30 years or 20 years. Now can you, वैसे तो constable में PhD वाले भी apply करते हैं, but as of now I'm just talking about generalization. So in that case scenario, what you will see is, can you expect that person to have a skill with respect to the modern cyber security infrastructure? No. और भाई 20 साल पहले, अब आप कहेंगे कि सर उसको सिखा क्यों नहीं सकते? Why not to organize a kind of training program for? In intelligence, there are two types of concept. One is called crystallized intelligence, another is called fluid intelligence. Like you people are there in your fluid intelligence phase. That means you can learn new things. But there is a sort of intelligence that we call crystallized intelligence. With a crystallized intelligence means saturation. That means you cannot be taught about the new things after that particular age. So the training itself is going to be a big challenge. Now, with respect to institutions, we have already seen police. With respect to the operational framework, except the cyber dome of the Kerala, not even a single state in India is having its operational framework. In terms of the policy, not even a single state in India which is having its own cyber security policy. Not even a single state in India which is having its own cyber security policy. Now comes the important aspect, defining cyber security. Defining cyber security. Defining cyber security is not in the primary agenda of the state government or the union government. Let me give you one example. If we talk about national security, tell me, where does national security lies? In which list? Union list. Union list. What about law and order? It lies in state list. If we talk about cyber security is having national security implications, say yes or no, in terms of cyber war. But if we talk about cyber security, it is also having law and order implication in terms of the cyber crimes that we have discussed. But where is cyber security in terms of the list? बताओ, union में कि state में? Huh? Not even in the union, not concurrent. Beta, don't try to be the Ambedkar of my class. अपना constitution मत बनाओ. It is not even there in the concurrent list. ठीक है, चलो. और it is not even there in the residuary list. बस खुश. Residuary list बताओ कौन से article में आती है फटाफट. Yes, which article talks about residuary list? 248. Article 248. क्या पढ़ते नहीं हो घर जाके बिल्कुल. Now the thing is that when we talk about this, cyber security does not enjoy a position in either of the any of the list. That itself shows our attitude or reluctancy on our part with respect to cyber security. Last aspect, lack of a central agency. Lack of a central agency. Lack of a central agency. Lack of a central agency means what? Now take these two agencies, two primary agencies, CERT-In and I4C. I think we have already talked about the two in the last class. ठीक है, ठीक. आप देखो साहब, if you read the preamble of the two agencies, दोनों का preamble क्या कहता है? Don't they mention this word nodal agency? Nodal agency. But for one purpose, can we have two nodal agencies? No. So this is the issue with the number of the agencies that is dealing with the cyber security. Means what? Overlapping of functions. Overlapping of function. And what is the inference that we can draw from the overlapping of functions? Overlapping of functions की वजह से बताओ क्या होगा? हाँ, फ्रिक्शन तो होगा दोनों में, of course. Duplication of efforts. ऐसा नहीं होगा? Duplication of efforts. दोनों एक ही पे लग जाएंगे. And second is no efforts, जिसके चांस हमेशा ज्यादा रहते हैं. Second is no efforts. या तो दोनों एक ही पे लग जाएंगे या दोनों में से कोई भी काम नहीं. This is what is happening with majority of the cyber issues in the country. Either they are a victim of duplication of efforts or they are victim of no. These are the all sort of cyber security challenges that we have. Now comes the next topic, and that is the role of social media in internal security. Role of social media in internal security. But when we talk about role of social media in internal security, I'll discuss only negatives, because social media is not about giving the wings to Article 19. Okay, write down a question that UPSC has asked. Write down that question first. The nexus between NEXUS, nexus between the internet and social media, the internet and social media, internet and social media has been a matter of grave security concern, has been a matter of grave security concern or threat. How they have been misused in the recent past, suggest measures to tackle the threats arising out of social media, to tackle the threats arising out of social media, 15 marks to 50 votes. First of all, what is social media? What is social media? Social media refers to a collection of online communication channels, which are meant for sharing the community-based content, like if we can talk about a few of such platforms such as YouTube, social networking sites, wikis, that means Wikipedia, blogs, VLOGS, etc. YouTube, social networking site, wikis, blogs, vlogs, etc. Now, with respect to social media, our major emphasis in internal security is always that how social media is able to influence the opinion. How does social media influences the opinion? We have a twofold approach for that. First is, write down, I'm just dictating, by changing the unwanted situation, by changing the unwanted situation by the change of collective mindset, by the change of collective mindset, as the people can now express their opinion on various social and political matters, can express their opinion on various social and political matters. Point number 2, by creating an online image, of a product or corporate over the night, by creating the image of a product or corporate over the night. Now, with respect to these aspects, I've used a word that how social media influences the social and political opinion. How does social media influences the social and political opinion? Now, if we can turn back to the previous slide, Gregan, in his celebrated work called The Saturated Self, in early 90s, he has warned of a situation. That situation was referred as Orwellian world. That situation was referred as Orwellian world. What is Orwellian world? Repetition शब्द सुनाई नहीं देता मुझे. Now, एक बार कर रहा हूं, दोबारा नहीं करूंगा आज के बाद, ठीक है ना? कर दूंगा, चलो. Gregan has warned of a situation in his celebrated work called The Saturated Self. एक किताब लिखी थी बेटा उसने, Saturated Self. And that situation was referred as Orwellian world. That situation was referred as Orwellian world. What is Orwellian world as per Gregan? ठीक है, Siri बंद करो अपना please. Now thing is, this is, you can say dangerous aspect of the technology, right? उसी के बारे में Orwellian world में बात की थी उसने, जो अभी आपकी क्लास में होगी. Means he has warned of a situation, a kind of situation that will saturate the human mind, to such an extent that the human mind will lose its capacity to think. Means what? Gregan has said that in Orwellian world, the technology is going to saturate the human mind to such an extent that beyond a particular threshold, beyond a particular saturation point, human mind won't be in a condition to think. This is what is happening these days. Take an example. Give me one example. Fake news. The human mind has lost its saturation to think beyond a particular prudence. That is why you see MIT. Last month, they conducted a research with respect to that microblogging platform called Twitter. Sir, Twitter ko unhone kya kiya? Ek research kiya. And they arrived at a conclusion that the fake news on Twitter is a very reliable microblogging platform. Now, with respect to Twitter, what they said, the fake news on Twitter spread 6 times faster than that of the real news. It spread 6 times faster than that of the real news. That means the propagation of the false narrative, propagation of a fake narrative. Why? Because human mind has now lost its prudence to think beyond a particular saturation. With respect to social media, our major concerns would be how does it influence the social opinion and how does it influence the political opinion, and eventually how it results in causing the disasters with respect to the internal security. Social opinion. First, by changing the dynamics of old social movement, and quote unquote, and let everyone speak. By changing the dynamics of the old social movement and let everyone speak. And second, propagation of a narrative to gain empathy. Empathy, I hope you know in ethics. Give me one example also. Get me an example. Propagation of a narrative via social media to gain empathy. Me too. Yes. Hashtag Me Too movement. Good. Hashtag Me Too movement. I hope everyone is aware about it. How it gained the empathy? There was a Twitter trend that was started by a Bollywood actress, and she has alleged that she has been sexually harassed at her workplace. Sooner or later, that moment, it gained the empathy, as well as this is how the narrative was propagated when the people, even from the male fraternity, they start coming forward and narrating all those events of the sexual harassment that they have faced at their workplace. Third, validation of facts and information. Validation of facts and information. Like PIB, fact check. And a number of government handles on a number of social media platforms. आप देख रहे हैं हर government department का एक handle होता है with respect to that social media platforms. And at the last, forcing the authorities to take corrective actions. Forcing the authorities to take corrective actions to avoid public rage. To avoid public rage. Forcing the authorities to take corrective actions to avoid public rage. Can you give me one example? Farm laws. वो बेटा political opinion में आ जाएगा. Example सही है, but it will come under the political opinion. Let me give you, right? In fact, let me narrate you an event associated with that. What it is? Forcing the authorities to take corrective actions to avoid any kind of public rage. Huh? Recent ban on YouTube. No. Now, it was more or less because of the security concerns that the ministry of this IB ministry has asked them to take out those videos. Fine. Now, let me give you one example that how it influences the opinion by forcing the authorities. Few years back, we had a learned HRD नहीं, external affairs minister. HRD तो कुछ ज़्यादा ही पड़ी हुई थी. Now, few years back, we had a very learned external affairs minister, Honorable Sushma ji. Now, during her tenure as an external affairs minister, one event happened in Lucknow, capital city of Uttar Pradesh. What was the event? There was a couple, and you see that boy was a Hindu and the girl was a Muslim. ठीक है, girl लड़की Muslim थी और लड़का हिंदू था. They went to the passport office, and after coming out to the passport office, they started alleging they have been abused in the name of religion. कि साहब हमें धर्म के नाम पे गाली दी थी. What more was required? So they started alleging that they have been abused in the name of religion. So parallel to that, a social media movement started in support of that couple. Okay, social media activists took the matter to social media. A movement started, and sooner or later it reached the honorable minister also. Okay, minister साहब साहिबा के पास भी पहुंचा. She decided to suspend the officer as well as transfer him. पहले suspension कर दिया, बाद में इसको transfer कर देंगे. ठीक. Now the thing is that when upon the internal scrutiny by the department and by the involvement of certain set of social activists, it was found out that the couple was innocent. That means they have not used any kind of religious slang against that particular lady. उन्होंने तो ऐसा कुछ कहा ही नहीं था साहब. Now again a parallel social media movement started. उसके parallel में एक और social media आप कह सकते हैं counter social media movement started, and that too in support of those, in support of that passport office. You see the impact. Ministry of External Affairs had a Facebook page of 4.8. देखो these are a kind of, you can say, proxy warfare on part of the citizen. Warfare won't be the correct word, but it's a kind of proxy practice. अब देखो, there was a page of Ministry of External Affairs with the rating 4.8. Within 8 hours, the rating fell to 2.4. The people started disliking it. And this single event alone forced the honorable minister to revoke his suspension, and he was reinstated at the same position, that passport office. Now, this is what social media can do in terms of influencing the political opinion. In terms of influencing the social opinion. Now, how does social media influences the political opinion? You will join me in the process. You people are social media users. How does social media influences the political opinion? First, Arab Spring. Arab Spring. A chain of events that took place in the Arab countries or in the Arab nations for the demand of democracy. Started from Tunisia, led to the fall of the major tyrants like Ben Ali. Started from Tunisia itself. Now, the success of Arab Spring to a greater extent can be attributed to social media. How? Because how these narratives or the ideals of democracy would be propagated by social media. By social media. Second example that can be taken is with respect to the Egyptian Spring, a parallel movement. Egyptian Spring or Egyptian Revolution also, sometimes we say 2011. Arab Spring also of around 2011. This Egyptian Spring, it started off with a social media page only. एक Facebook पर एक page बना. There was a page which was created on Facebook. The name of the page was, yes anyone? We all are Khalids. We all are Khalid. ये Khalid कौन था? Khalid was a youth who succumbed to death because of the atrocities or the injuries that he faced because of the brutalities of the Egyptian forces. So they created a social media page and they started chanting on Tahrir Square that we all are Khalids, and later on it shifted to the idea of freedom, bread and justice. Freedom, bread and justice. So you see, this moment it started off with social media only. At least Arab Spring didn't start as a social media. As a parallel moment, social media joined. But with respect to the Egyptian Spring, it started on that social media Third is Iranian Green Movement. Iranian Green Movement. Iranian Green Movement. 2009. There was a controversial president in Iran called Ahmadinejad. Heard his name before? Ahmadinejad. Now this man, Ahmadinejad, in 2009, he won the presidential election. He won the presidential election of Iran. Election जीत गया सर. He won the presidential election in Iran with 63% of votes polled in his favor. But later on, there were allegations of discrepancies in the electoral process. There were allegations of discrepancies in the electoral process. And a movement started on the social media. The name of the movement was what? Iranian Green Movement. Result. Finally, Ahmadinejad had to go. Finally, Ahmadinejad had to go. Now comes the next part with respect to India. अब इंडिया के रेस्पेक्ट में आप बताओगे फार्म लॉज के अलावा कुछ बताना. Yes, give me a very sound case in India with respect to how social media influences the or has influenced the political opinion in India.
Anti-corruption movement.
Anti-corruption movement. Name the movement. Absolutely. India against corruption.
India.
India against corruption. India against corruption. Social media joined as a parallel movement. अब आप देखो, if we talk about this movement, India against corruption, किसी ने participate किया था इसमें से? हाँ, चलो, मैंने किया था. India against corruption. Now the thing is what? This was a movement that was started by Anna Hazare. Anna Hazare. For the demand of what? Lokpal and Lokayukta. I hope you know the two. Lokpal and Lokayukta. So this institution of Lokpal has not existed in India ever before this movement. I'm not saying that it started as a social media movement. No. On the parallel basis, social media joined the movement and social media played a most important role in mass mobilization. In mass mobilization. And for the first time, the institution of Lokpal was seen in India in the year 2013 by passing an act called Lokpal and Lokayukta Act of 2013. For the very first time, when was Lokpal discussed in India? बताओ पहली बार कब बात की थी हमने लोकपाल की? Yes, 1967. 1967 when a private member bill was introduced, and it took that much amount of year, more than 40 years for Lokpal to arrive. And of course, social media has an important role to play. Take another example. It led to the genesis of another major political party in India, Aam Aadmi Party. It led to the genesis of one of the major political, अब तो आप ऐसे भी कह सकते हैं, one of the major opposition party, क्योंकि कांग्रेस मुक्त भारत हो ही गया ना. थोड़ा बहुत जो बच्चा है उन्होंने भारत जोड़ो में शुरू कर दिया. भारत जोड़ो कांग्रेस तोड़ो हो गया इधर नॉर्थ में. Now the thing is, Aam Aadmi Party, it led to the genesis of Aam Aadmi Party, which is acting as one of the major opposition. आप देखो, I don't know if you have followed the development of this Aam Aadmi Party. So in the name of resources, they had only one thing, and that was social media. अब तो बहुत कुछ है इनके पास, ठीक है, शराब इतनी है दिल्ली में. Now, so now, in the name of resources, this party had only one thing, and in fact, the genesis of this party can be attributed to only social media. Social media is responsible for the birth of this political party. Now, if we can talk about further some more moments like hashtag Black Lives Matter, which equally have played a very important role in, yes, किस लिए था? Against the racial killing of George Floyd in US, who succumbed to injuries that he suffered because of the brutalities of the police forces. A movement started called hashtag Black Lives Matter to highlight the issues associated with the blacks. Parallel to that, another movement started, hashtag for once, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Started by Nike. Remember, I hope there's all those players with the black bands on their hands standing in solidarity with their black players. Hashtag for once, just don't do it, and it equally got the support of its rivals also in the past. Now, another moment that we can take is hashtag we accept. ये आप बता दो मुझे फटाफट. Hashtag we accept. ये तो यार recent है. ऐसा मत करो. Hashtag we accept. Started by बता दो. अच्छा चलो मैं बता देता हूँ. आप Airbnb. Against whom? Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Of course, he was not the president of US at that time. What was there in this moment? Hashtag we accept. Airbnb started it. Airbnb, you know. Now this property booking portal. So this Airbnb started a movement against the Donald Trump, and it put the air travel ban. It put the air travel ban on Donald Trump. देखो ये हुआ क्या था देखो इसमें. If I can tell you. You see, after this Joe Biden was elected as the president of US, Mr. Donald Trump, he led a politically charged campaign in US, which was taken as an effort to divide the United States of America on political lines. It was also followed by the events of violence during the oath ceremony of Joe Biden. So Airbnb started a movement called hashtag we accept. In fact, it came up with a tagline also. Write down that tagline, quote unquote. Under this, we accept. Write down. No matter who you are. No matter who you are. No matter who you are, comma. No matter where are you from. No matter where are you from, comma. No matter whom you love or worship. No matter whom you love or worship, comma, we all belong. We all belong. B-E-L-O-N-G. We all belong. Full stop. The world is, continuing the same, the world is more beautiful. The world is more beautiful the way we accept it. The way we accept it. The world is more beautiful the way we accept it. Fine. Chaliye sir. Now enough of the opinion with respect to social and political matters. हाँ बताइए. First point, by changing the dynamics of the old social movement and let everyone speak means, if we go by the old social movement, here only it was more or less a kind of centralized approach where leader has the authority to speak, represents the opinion as well as the viewpoints of all those who are participating in the movement. But with the advent of social media, everyone is entitled to enjoy the privilege of expression on the social media platforms. Number 3, validation of facts and information. Okay, validation. Social media plays an equal and important role in validation of facts and information. चलो मैं एक छोटा सा आपको इवेंट बताता हूं जो सोशल मीडिया पे हुआ था फॉर द बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग विद रिस्पेक्ट टू पॉइंट नंबर 3 इन द सोशल ओपिनियन. अब देखो, नाउ हाउ सोशल मीडिया प्लेज एन इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन वैलिडेशन ऑफ फैक्ट्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन इज द थीम बिहाइंड दिस आइडिया. Few I think last month only, not few months, last month only, there was a video which was circulating on the social media platform, more specifically Facebook, and that video was with respect to, you see, it was like a small kid was there who came running to a car which stopped at one of the red light, and he suddenly started wiping the windshield of that screen with the help of his hand, and meanwhile he was having a kind of like a smart device or a smart watch in his hand. He just pressed the button and he was able to scan the FASTag code of that windshield. Have you seen that video? So what he did was, कोई बात नहीं, that won't affect the chances of your selection. मैं बता रहा हूँ ना क्या था उसमें. Now the thing is, what that kid did, he just scanned the FASTag code with the help of that smart device, and the propagator of the video said that by scanning that FASTag code, he is able to transfer the money from the FASTag wallet to his bank account. This is how it works. Within this, and you see, this news is spread like a fire in the jungle. People started believing in it. People started the trend on the Twitter also with respect to that particular media. This is how you see fake news propagates. Within 4 hours, yes, just within 4 hours, the NHAI and Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, they came to the rescue by using the social media platform to validate. Validate means that no such external intervention is possible as regards that FASTag code is concerned and those scanners with respect to FASTag codes are concerned. क्योंकि इनके बीच में peer-to-peer connection होता है. They are having a kind of peer-to-peer connection where no third external intervention is possible. So this is how you see the social media. Now the authorities are taking it to the social media in terms of validating the facts and information. PIB fast check plays a very important role. Now you can take an example of Facebook Zero also. That is one such platform which is there to tackle the menace of the spread of the fake news in the countries. Okay, it is a kind of rebuttal mechanism. What happens in rebuttal mechanism? We try to trace the origin of the news and accordingly we'll try to decipher if there is an element of fake news in that particular. Yeah. Okay. Anything else with respect to that? Now, please. It's a good question. LGBTQ in the social opinion. Okay, with respect to CA and NRC, they are totally a political matter. So in terms of political opinion. Okay, farm protest की अगर बात करें तो farm protest will also come under the political opinion, because you see later on, because of those movements only, the government decided to take the 3 laws back. Negatives of social media. First is civil unrest. Civil unrest. Social media can cause civil unrest. Social media can cause civil unrest. अच्छा पहले बताओ आप में से कितने लोग सोशल मीडिया यूज करते हैं? फेसबुक कितने लोग चलाते हैं? बस. व्हाट्सएप, पूरा. टेलीग्राम, गुड. अच्छा, टेलीग्राम का इंक्रिप्शन अच्छा है कि व्हाट्सएप का? टेलीग्राम का. टेलीग्राम हैज बेस्ट इंक्रिप्शन इन द वर्ल्ड. व्हाट्सएप encryption has been broken already by Pegasus, shattered in fact by the Pegasus. Civil unrest. अब ये मत पूछना सर क्यों है, क्योंकि मैंने नहीं बनाया है. हाँ, civil unrest. Social media can cause civil unrest. Take an example. One by one, we'll take those events. Nupur Sharma controversy. नहीं सुना? ये तो तुमने पूरा सुना होगा. नुपुर शर्मा controversy. Why Nupur Sharma? जिसको नहीं पता है, for them I am just narrating in a line or two. There was a controversial tweet by this recognized spokesperson of a recognized political party against the prophet of a particular religion, which resulted in it was a kind of, you can say, dishonorable comment or tweet on her part, which eventually resulted in the violence, mass level violence in different parts of the world. India was equally impacted by that, which can further be seen, or you can say situation further aggravated in the form of what we call as Udaipur violence. Udaipur violence, where a tailor was beheaded live on the social media platform for supporting this controversial tweet by Nupur Sharma. Second event in the process can be seen with respect to Shambhu Raigar event. Heard his name? Shambhu Raigar. Yes, it's an event. Shambhu Raigar event. Shambhu Raigar, he belonged to a Dalit community in Rajasthan. This man, Shambhu Raigar, he belonged to Dalit community in Rajasthan. What he did? Now, Shambhu Raigar was under the impression that his sister is having a love affair with a person belonging to Muslim community. Okay. So what Shambhu Raigar did? He took to social media and he decided to chop that person off in a few of pieces by using the X, and the entire episode was streaming live on the social media platform Facebook. ठीक है, उसको काट रहा था वो, और सब वो सारे का सारा 17 times he has decided to put a kind of, like I can say, 17 times that man attacked that Muslim person, and this entire episode was streaming live on the Facebook. अब देखो सर, what was more disastrous in the entire episode? After Shambhu Raigar was arrested by the authorities, supporters of Shambhu Raigar shared his bank account details on Facebook. SBI bank account details of Shambhu Raigar were shared on Facebook, and the people started flooding his bank account with hell lot of money. लोगों ने साहब उसका बैंक अकाउंट जो है भर दिया. Finally, SBI had to block his bank account. Now you see what is the more dangerous proposition over here is what Shambhu has done has been done. He is a, you can say, he is a criminal which is meant to be dealt by the criminal justice system. But what about the mindset of these people who are supporting them or supporting the events like Shambhu Raigar? What will happen if we are projecting the people like Shambhu Raigar as heroes in our society? उनके लिए तो साहब heroes था, और क्यों पैसा देगा कोई? They are projecting them heroes, and जैसे एक छोटा सा example लेता हूँ. If I am standing in the class and I am saying something derogatory, okay, if I am the one, if any of my speech result in the incitement of violence and you people stand in support of that statement, you people are equally responsible as I am. आप भी उतनी जिम्मेदार हैं जितना मैं हूँ. So you see, you think about the mindset of these people who are, and you see what was further more. There were many such events. Yes, there were many such events after Shambhu Raigar, which took to social media, live on social media, resulting in the incitement of violence in different parts of the countries. Third, Muzaffarnagar riots. Muzaffarnagar riots of 2013. Muzaffarnagar, a western Uttar Pradesh district. आप में से है कोई मुजफ्फरनगर से? अच्छा बाश, हाथ उठाने के तरीके से पता लग गया. खास मुजफ्फरनगर से हो? खास, ठीक है. आप भी हो? पीछे से कौन था बेटा? आप भी हो? आप भी खास मुजफ्फरनगर से हो? बड़ौद से? अरे वाह, ठीक है. वो भी डेंजरस एरिया है ना. ये 2-3 एरिया है, मुजफ्फरनगर, बड़ौद, बागपत, ठीक है, शामली, कैराना, इधर मेरठ आ जाता है. इस रीजन को भाई साहब, ये इंडिया का अफगानिस्तान है. इस रीजन को अगर किसी ने संभाल लिया, ही कैन रूल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, ही कैन रूल ओवर द वर्ल्ड। मुजफ्फरनगर में एक टाइम ऐसा था कि वहां कोई भी एसएसपी 6 महीने से ज्यादा नहीं रहता, ठीक है, 6 महीने से ज्यादा वहां कोई एसएसपी नहीं रह सकता, कोई डीएम नहीं रह सकता। मुजफ्फरनगर को जिसने संभाल लिया वो पूरा हिंदुस्तान संभाल सकता है। फार्म लॉज की प्रोटेस्ट देखी थी ना आपने, ये अकेला डिस्ट्रिक्ट था जिसने लीड किया था, अकेला, ठीक है, पूरे देश में नहीं संभला। नाउ द थिंग इज मुजफ्फरनगर, नहीं पंजाब से भी थे, ऐसी बात नहीं थे। नाउ द थिंग इज मुजफ्फरनगर, व्हाट हैपेंड इन मुजफ्फरनगर, देयर शामली एक जगह पड़ती है बेटा उसके पास, शामली, SHAMLI, शाम, अब तो डिस्ट्रिक्ट है। नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मुजफ्फरनगर, सो मुजफ्फरनगर राइट्स ब्रोक आउट इन 2013, चलो हो जाते क्योंकि हेटेरोजेनस सोसाइटी है तो हो जाते यार कम्युनल टेंशंस, बट इट वाज रिजॉल्व्ड विद द intervention of the local administration. Yes, local administration played a very important role in the resettlement of that disputes which occurred between the two communities, and with the involvement of prudent leader of the religious communities from the both sides. Later on, just in a night, a rumor spread. रात को एक rumor फैल गया क्या, that there would be further events of targeted killings against a particular religion, against the minority. Result, impact. This rumor resulted in the exodus of 40,000 families overnight. Yes, I am using the word exodus. It resulted in the exodus of 40,000 families overnight just because of one rumor. Just because of this one rumor. Take another example. 40,000. Yes, quite a number, right? Now, it's not an officially recognized figure. उससे ज़्यादा थे. Now, next is Jammu and Kashmir. एक्सोडस का मतलब नहीं समझते हो, पलायन, इंटरनली डिस्प्लेस्ड पीपल जानते हो, दोज हु आर डिस्प्लेस्ड विद इन देयर ओन कंट्रीज, सो दोज एक्सोडस रिजल्ट्स इन द इंटरनली डिस्प्लेस्ड पीपल, ठीक है, पलायन बोलते हैं बेटा इसको हिंदी में, माइग्रेशन भी कह सकते हैं आप। जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, अंग्रेजी सुधारो अपनी सब लोग, ठीक है, इंग्लिश प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल, लेट मी बी वेरी स्पेसिफिक। नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, in Jammu and Kashmir, it has been in fact accepted by the recent meeting headed by the Honorable LG of Jammu and Kashmir, that this nexus between internet and social media to a greater extent has been responsible for spreading the violence in the valley. Kashmir Valley. Nexus between the internet and social media has played a very important role in spreading the violence in the valley. Take an example. Let me give you a fact to facilitate my argument. Whenever any security situation is arising in Jammu and Kashmir, what is the first thing? Internet shutdown. Internet shutdown to curtail the movement of those false narratives with the help of social media as well as by using the channels like WhatsApp or Telegram as the case may be. Second issue with respect to social media is social engineering. Social engineering. Social engineering, you know already? Yes. By deepfakes. But it can have multiple impacts. Brainwashing could be one. Now, when we talk about social engineering, so these days a new trend is seen in social engineering, and that is with respect to the involvement of deepfakes. What are deepfakes? They are artificial intelligence based softwares, AI based softwares, which are used to create fake images and doctored videos. Fake images and doctored videos. Fake images भी बनाते हैं इसमें, doctored video. Fake images like morphed images also. ठीक है, उनको morphed images भी बोल देते हैं, MORPHED, morphed images. किसी के ऊपर किसी का चेहरा लगा दिया, kind of those things, right? Now, fake image. Recent example that can be seen is with respect to an application called BullyBuy application. I hope everyone have heard of it. BullyBuy application. What was there in this BullyBuy application? हाँ बता रहा हूँ, मैं बता रहा हूँ। Good. It was created on an open source platform called GitHub. ठीक है बेटा, एक open source platform था GitHub. Open source, you understand? Anyone can go and edit the content over there or can render the solutions over there. Now, thing is, on this GitHub open source platform, this application was created. This application targeted 80 Muslim women. Targeted 80 Muslim women as of their fake images, doctored videos. It was created. And these 80 women, you see, they belong to the eminent section of the Muslim community. Eminent as of what? They were doctors, they were lawyers, they were actresses, they were journalists, newspaper anchors, etc., social activists. And what was more dangerous in the entire episode? Those women were made available for online auctioning. They were made available for online auctioning on that particular application. आप सब auction कर सकते हो. As a result, the Delhi police decided to file an FIR under section 153A, section 153B, 354A, subsection 3. In fact, it was 354A. 354A, subsection 3, and one more section was there, section 509 IPC. ये सारे के सारे sections IPC के. That itself speaks very high of our IT Act. भाई, don't you think it's a pure internet crime? IT Act का कौन सा section लगा इसमें? कोई सा भी, क्योंकि IT Act is an outdated act. ठीक है, इतना महान एक्ट, इतना आउटडेटेड एक्ट है, उसका देखिए एक भी सेक्शन, इट इज अ प्योर इंटरनेट क्राइम एंड वी आर ट्राइंग इट अंडर द सेक्शंस ऑफ आईपीसी. चलो फटाफट कोई वकील साहब मुझे बताओ व्हाट इज रिटन इनसाइड दीस सेक्शंस. 153 है ना, 3 लिखा है तो 4 की बात करें. हाँ ये तो मुझे पता है, सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट, मुझे तो खैर सारे पता है. अरे मतलब इसलिए पता है मैं बहुत उल्टा दिमाग चलता. 354 बेटा, 354 जहां भी आ जाता है वहां पे सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट ही होता है जनरल. ठीक है, अब 153 है. यस, इट टॉक्स अबाउट कॉजिंग एनिमिटी बिटवीन द टू सेक्शंस. एनिमिटी, दुश्मनी बढ़ाना. 153B टॉक्स अबाउट कॉजिंग डिसहार्मनी. कॉजिंग डिसहार्मनी. डिसहार्मनी किसमें होती है? जनरली रिलीजियस ग्रुप्स में, क्योंकि देखो द वुमेन बिलोंगिंग टू पर्टिकुलर सेक्शंस वर टारगेट. 354A we have already seen sexual harassment, और 509 में क्या होता है? हमेशा outraging the modesty of women. Outraging the modesty of women. Outraging the modesty of women. ठीक है, जहां कहीं भी वुमेन वाला अफेयर होता है तो वहां पे साहब जो है हमेशा outraging the modesty of women. ईव टीजिंग में भी लग जाता है 509. तो outraging the modesty of the woman. See, so these sections, this under this. अच्छा, एक और इवेंट था ऐसा ही, that was Sully deals. Sully deals. Now these Sully deals, they were designed by one of the BCA student from Indore. ठीक है, उसमें भी क्या होता था? ऑनलाइन ऑक्शनिंग होती थी, ऑनलाइन ऑक्शनिंग ऑफ वुमेन. In fact, bully buy is defined as Sully deals 2.0. Bully buy is also known as Sully deals 2.0. मैं just मतलब उसका एक एडवांस्ड वर्जन. Second aspect with respect to social engineering would be of cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism is what? Confluence of cyberspace. Confluence of cyberspace and terrorism. Confluence of cyberspace and terrorism. Confluence means what? When cyberspace is used for terrorist activities, it is termed as cyber terrorism. How it promotes cyber terrorism? One by one. First, recruitment by terrorist. Recruitment by terrorist. Recruitment by terrorist, you see, there is this ISIS. They are having their own social media module. Yes, I am using the word module. उनका अपना एक social media channel भी है, and they are having a social media module to recruit the terrorists online by using the social media platform. Second is terror funding. Second is terror funding, or you can say terror financing. Can I say that social media can be used for terror financing? Give me example. Huh? Sorry, जोर से बोलो बेटा. Remember Paris attack of 2015? It forms the best example of an attack which have been, where the funding have been mobilized by using the social media, and it's an example of a crypto funded attack. It's an example of crypto funded attack. Look, virtual currency भी जानते हो चलाना. That means it's an example of what? Crypto funded attack. 2015. Remember that controversial cartoon in the Charlie Hebdo magazine over there, which resulted in the incitement of violence and a number of terrorist attacks in the form of 2015. Now, another aspect with respect to cyber terrorism would be propaganda warfare. Propaganda warfare. Propaganda warfare. Like this Islamic State of Khorasan. Islamic State of Khorasan. ISIS का एक पार्ट है, ठीक है, ISIS का एक पार्ट है इस्लामिक स्टेट ऑफ खुरासन. बेसिकली अफगानिस्तान में एक विलायत है, दैट इज नोन एज खुरासन विलायत, which is responsible for managing the affairs of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. They are having an online magazine, they are having a magazine called Daqib. They are having a magazine called Daqib. This Daqib talks of propaganda warfare in India. This Dakib, it talks of what? Propaganda warfare in India by using social media. By using what? By using social media. Propaganda warfare in India by using the social media. Why? To fill their ranks. To fill their ranks by radicalization. To fill their ranks by radicalization. Now, apart from it, if we can talk about terrorism, ko hata dete hain, side kar dete hain. Now, if we talk about other issues with respect to the propaganda warfare, it can even result in, this is I'm talking apart from the cyber war, right? Or sorry, cyber terrorism. It can eventually be used to cause the civil unrest also. How? You see, social media is totally decentralized in nature. So as a result, it become a very potent tool for the propaganda warfare. Last year की बात करते हैं. Last year, we lost to Pakistan at one of the international event. हार गए, ठीक है, और वैसे भी पापा का फर्ज होता है बेटे को जिता दे, कई बार जिता दिया उनको. Now the thing is, we lost to them. Now after that loss, there was a minister, information and broadcasting minister of Pakistan, Sheikh Rashid. He took to social media, live on social media, and he started narrating that win as the win of Islam. As of, if I can quote his word for you, that it is not the win of the single Pakistan cricket team, rather it is the win of the Islamic brother in Pakistan. It is a win of all my Muslim brothers in India and all my Muslim brothers across the world, without realizing the fact that cricket is played only in the 12 countries. Now what he said, that okay, it is the win of the entire Islamic brothers of world. And see the impact in India. Bareilly, again Western Uttar Pradesh, Bareilly. Now 5 youths from Bareilly, inspired by his speech, they started busting the firecracker for the win of Pakistan. They started busting the cracker for the win of Pakistan, and they started chanting the slogan. ठीक है, उन्होंने जो particular slogans होते हैं, I cannot chant. Now they started chanting those particular slogans over there, without realizing the fact that it's bulldozer government over there. बेटों को बुलडोजर पे ही ले गए उठा के, अभी तक जमानत नहीं हुई है. Now the thing is what? You see, this one speech in one part of the world eventually causing disaster in any other part of the world. It can be used for psychological warfare. It can be used for psychological warfare. Psychological warfare. How social media can be used for psychological warfare? You see, there is something we call as fear death. Something we call as fear death in the psychological warfare. Take an example of Blue Whale. I hope every one of you is aware about this game. For those of you who are not aware of it, I'll just use few seconds for that. But it was a game that was developed by one of the Russian developer, and his idea behind development of this game was what? Not reduction of population, eliminating the weak element from the earth. हाँ, मतलब eventually contribute to, पर बेटा वो थोड़ी ना ये contraceptive थोड़ी ना ये आप कह रहे हो ना, इसलिए कह रहा हूँ, ठीक है, और कोई बात नहीं, पर्पस वही है, पॉपुलेशन तो अपने आप रिड्यूस हो जाएगी जब ये मर जाएंगे. नाउ द थिंग इज व्हाट, मजाक कर रहा था मैं, ठीक है, पूरा मत मानना. Now in that case scenario, this Blue Whale game, what happened? There were around 50 stages. Every single stage, beta, you have to perform a kind of deadly task. Let me tell you one deadly task, that you have to draw blue whale on your hand, of course not with a pen but with a very knife or a sharpened object. In the 50th stage, you have to perform a deadly task, like you have to jump in front of a train, you have to jump in front of chalti हुई है सब, in front of a running bus, you have to jump from a cliff, you have to jump into the river, etc. Multiple types. And if you will refuse, he will always threaten you to leak your private information in the global cyber space. As a result, there were events of suicidal deaths, which are referred as fear death in psychological warfare. In India also, there were around 4 to 5 cases of suicidal death. So you see, this is what social media can do. This is what the internet, nexus between the internet and social media can do. Now, next is with respect to promotion of organized crime, more specifically like insider trading. Insider trading. Though there are a number of organized crimes which are promoted by social media, but one such we will talk of is insider trading. What is insider trading? I hope everyone is aware of it. Okay, but I'll just explain a brief of it by taking an example. Let's say we have a company. Let's say we have a company. The shares of this company are listed on stock exchange. The share of this company are listed on the stock exchange. Now, if this company is going through the phase of expansion, let's say it will be inviting recent research and development. By expansion kar raha hai to latest technology लाएगा. It will also be inviting innovations, as well as it will also be inviting certain set of funding, or you can say investment, as the case may be. Now, don't you think it is a kind of trade secret of this organization? भाई अपना R&D कोई किसी को बताता है, innovation बताता है? नहीं बताता. Now, if that information is leaked outside, अगर ये information leak हो जाती है बाहर, what would be the impact on the price of the shares? Down होंगे. The price are going to shoot up like anything. Price will rise like anything. Why? Everyone would like to buy these shares. The company is going to the phase of expansion. आपने ऐसी कंपनी के साथ जाना नहीं चाहोगे जिसकी आपको पता है कि short they are going for some sort of R&D. Harshad Mehta scam. Now, so in that case scenario, innovations. So the price is going to shoot up. But now you will say, sir, what is your problem in it? It's a win-win situation. We being the shareholder, that being the company. But don't you think it is going to put the other competitors at risk? It is against the fair market principles, because all the other companies of the same stature would be under a threat. So this insider trading is an offense in India. In fact, it's a punishable crime. 90s tak nahi tha, 90s ke baad ho gaya. So number of channels are there which are promoting the insider trading, like Telegram. Best example. Aap aaj jaake dekhna. Go and search on Telegram this word insider trading. You will find more than hundreds of the channels associated with insider trading. And further, a recent change has been seen, and that is they are promising you to deposit the profits in offshore bank accounts. हिसाब आप जो पैसा भी कमाओगे, that will be deposited in where? Offshore bank accounts, which are located in tax haven countries and far beyond the reach of the Indian tax authorities. You know these offshore bank accounts, right? Located in the tax haven countries like Cayman Islands, etc. And they are outside the reach of the Indian tax authorities. Next is a big issue, and that is the issue of fake news. Number 4, fake news. This we'll discuss in detail. Fake news. First of all, what is a fake news? What is fake news? What is fake news? Write down the definition in a line. Fake news refers to a set of misinformation. It refers to a set of misinformation that is meant for pushing a political agenda. That is meant for pushing a political agenda, creating confusion in the society, and making quick business gain. Making quick business gains. These are 3 primary purposes that a fake news is served. But in the recent times, the spread of the fake news has been on the high. Let's discuss a number of factors responsible for the spread, one by one. First is erosion of media ethics. Erosion of media ethics. Though media and ethics are 2 contradictory terms, but we can use it. Erosion of media ethics. Media, which is regarded as the 4th important pillar of the democracy, which is expected to play an impartial role in the democratic setup, is no longer an impartial entity. Rather, media has assumed the role of echo chamber. Media has been reduced to the role of echo chamber of the political bosses or of the political parties. As a result, there are events of motivated reporting. आपने देखा होगा मोटिवेटेड रिपोर्टिंग क्या होती है, ठीक है? वो एक बॉलीवुड का एक्टर है ना, ठीक है, वो जो हर एक की बायोपिक में आ जाता है. नाउ दैट इंडिविजुअल वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब का इंटरव्यू ले रहा, और ठीक है, और इंटरव्यू में उनसे साहब क्या पूछ रहा है कि साहब आपका फेवरेट फल कौन सा है, ठीक है साहब आपका फेवरेट फल कौन सा है. एंड दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच इज विद द एंटायर मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया. Just to push a political agenda, there are events of motivated reporting, and media has reduced itself merely to the mouthpiece of political parties. And because of that, there are events of fake news, or you can say an active involvement of the mainstream media in the spread of fake news. Let's try to facilitate it by certain set of examples. Like, you can mention those examples in the exam as it is. GPS chip in rupees 2000 note. Yes, they can be mentioned, directly mentioned कर सकते हो इसको. GPS chip in rupees 2000 note. Courtesy आज तक, जी न्यूज तो बेटा बाय डिफॉल्ट ऐड कर लिया करो, आज तक एंड जी न्यूज. आई होप यू नो व्हाट वाज दिस इशू और डू आई नीड टू टेल यू. चलो एक लाइन में बता देता हूं. देयर वाज अ प्रोपगेशन ऑफ दिस नैरेटिव लाइव ऑन द mainstream media, and that is that there is a GPS tracker nano chip inside every 2000 rupee note, and when those notes will be kept in a cluster, the intelligence agencies will be alarmed automatically. Wonder why they are not in NASA, right? Now the thing is, second, ये interesting है, birth of a supreme leader. Birth of a supreme leader which is going to relieve the world of all its pain and sorrows. एक ऐसा लीडर पैदा होगा ना. नेम ऑफ द लीडर नरेंडस. कर्टेसी जी न्यूज. द नेम ऑफ द लीडर, मैं कुछ नहीं कह रहा हूं यार, ये उन्होंने कहा है, ठीक है. इट्स अ फेक. एंड फर्दर दे हैव कोटेड नॉस्ट्राडामस फॉर दैट पर्पस, दैट ही हैज सेड दैट ही इज द वन हु हैज मेड सच स्टेटमेंट. नेक्स्ट, जन गण मन. ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज नो डाउट दैट जन गण मन, आवर नेशनल एंथम, इज बेस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड फॉर अस. But what was the element of fake narrative over here? That Jan Gan Man has been declared as best national anthem by UNESCO. ये fake है, देखो साहब, ठीक है. No doubt it is best for us, we being Indians, but it has been declared by UNESCO. ठीक है. जी न्यूज़ इसमें ऐड कर लेना अपने आप, ठीक है. Next, property worth 15,000 करोड़. छोटी बात हम करते ही नहीं है. प्रॉपर्टी वर्थ रुपीज 15,000 करोड़ ऑफ दाऊद इब्राहिम सीज्ड इन दुबई. ये गलत पंगा ले रहे हैं, ठीक है. नाउ प्रॉपर्टी वर्थ 15,000 CR ऑफ दाऊद इब्राहिम सीज्ड इन दुबई. एंड यू सी व्हाट्स द इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट, द इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज ऑफ दुबई डिनाइड इट. सो डिड आवर इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज, बट दे डिडंट. Now, with respect to this erosion of media ethics, there comes a concept that we call as crony capitalism. Crony capitalism, which to a greater extent is responsible for the erosion of media ethics. Which to a greater extent is, it is a term, crony capitalism, which is used to refer a nexus between the business houses, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. And the politicians or the political leaders. That promotes a kind of organized corruption. It's a triangular nexus that promotes a kind of organized corruption. Let's see how. What is the businessman and politician angle over here? The business houses are providing them funding at the time of elections. After the elections, they are seeking favors. After the elections, they are seeking favors by formal pressure group mechanism. I hope you know what is a formal pressure group. That is in very close proximity with the government. They are at a very close distance with the government, and they are invited by the government in the formulation of policies also. ठीक है sir? Now, what is the bureaucrat politician nexus? In India, we have a concept of political accountability. Political accountability means tomorrow you will be the civil servant, you will be accountable to your political bosses. So for the favorite posting, you will always be favoring the politicians. हमेशा उनको फेवर करोगे. But tell me something. You want to be the district magistrate of Lucknow, or you want to be the chairperson of DDA, Delhi Development Authority, or you want to be a secretary in the Department of Fisheries? Of course, fisheries में जाओगे. मछली को ज्यादा अच्छी लगती है आपको. हाँ, क्या देखोगे वहां पे? ब्रीडिंग ऑफ फिशेस. वो तो पनिशमेंट पोस्टिंग होती है बेटा. Now, when we talk about this political accountability for the favorite postings, they will always be favoring what? The political bosses. Now, what is the nexus between the businessmen and the bureaucrats? In a topic called role of civil services in democracy, we'll come across a phrase that is called as behind the scene or behind the curtain influence. Behind the scene and behind the curtain influence means what? These big business houses will be bribing the bureaucrats in order to get their task done. In the entire process, where is media? Why we are highlighting media? In India, the media houses are either owned by the big business houses, owned by the big business houses. Like recently one has been acquired. Now, or they are owned by, there is a considerable stake, and I can say controlling stake of the politicians also in the media houses. So as a result, media cannot be expected to play an impartial role. Media cannot be anticipated to play an impartial role. Media being at the center of crony capitalism. ठीक है, चल नौकरी का सवाल है यार. Second, decentralized nature of media. आप कह सकते हैं decentralized nature of social media. Decentralized nature of social media. Decentralized nature of social media means anyone can upload or anyone can download anything from the social media platforms because of the different locations of various servers. With respect to the decentralized nature of the social media, let's discuss a case called toolkit controversy. Toolkit controversy. What is this toolkit controversy? During the farm laws protest or this agricultural laws protest in the country last year, there was a toolkit which was tweeted by Greta Thunberg. There was a toolkit which was tweeted by Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg, you know, that stupid kid, right? The self-proclaimed environmentalist. Now, Greta Thunberg. Now, what she did, she tweeted a toolkit, and that toolkit, in that toolkit, she has requested the people of India to start a social media revolution. To start a social media revolution for what? To support the protest. To support the protest against the farm laws. But in her toolkit, toolkit, you understand or not? Toolkit basically refers to a set of guidelines to establish a particular task, set of frameworks to establish a particular task. Clear है? अब देखो, जैसे आप लोगों ने देखो intellectual property right होता है IPR. With respect to IPR, the toolkit is issued by whom? DPIIT. DPIIT. Now, the thing is that she has requested the people to start a social media revolution to support the protest, and which has resulted in the incitement of the violence in the country the same day. In the form of what? In the form of attacks on security forces. Attacks on security forces. Today you go to the YouTube and see that video. Around 40 of our Jawans were the one which were thrashed, and they were thrown from the second floor of the Red Fort. Second, vandalization of the property worth crores. Vandalization of the property worth crores, yes, within a single day. Vandalization of the property worth crores within a single day. Third, vandalization means destruction. They try to replace our national flag. They try to replace our national flag by the flag of their own movement. आपने देखा होगा last year, 26 January. They try to replace our national flag by the flag of their own movement, and this happened because of toolkit. Now, in the entire episode, tell me what is the accountability of Greta Thunberg? Zero. Greta Thunberg has been named in one of the FIR by the Delhi police, disturbing the harmony and resulting in the incitement to the violence. But what is his accountability? Sorry, her accountability, that is zero. Why? Because of the decentralized nature of the social media. Now take another example. Point number 3, I think. Cheap data plans and lack of digital ethics. Cheap data plans and lack of digital ethics. Cheap data plans will contribute to what? बताओ cheap data plan से क्या होगा? Internet penetration would increase. Internet penetration will increase or not? India is number 2 in terms of internet users in the world. Our global rank is number 2. ठीक है, हम number 2 हैं in terms of the social media. Sorry, in terms of the internet user. We are having 35 CR of social media users in the country. 35 करोड़ लोग हैं जो social media चलाते हैं भारत. Out of that, 21 CR are WhatsApp alone. 21 CR हैं जो WhatsApp चलाते हैं. 21 CR are the one which are using the WhatsApp alone, and that has such a huge user base, with majority of them not having the digital ethics. What is the meaning of digital ethics? That how to use the social media in an ethical manner, that has resulted in the coinage of the term like WhatsApp University. Yes, a term of the newspaper lexicon, WhatsApp University. How this WhatsApp University has been created on the pillars of lack of digital ethics, which further acts as the propagator of fake news. Yes, it is one of the primary propagator of fake news in our country. You see, Last year, WhatsApp has changed their forward policy or not? Now you can forward only 5 at a time just to tackle the menace of the spread of the fake news. Now forwarded many times, which most of the time are fake news, can be forwarded only once. Can be forwarded only once. एक बार उसको forward कर सकते. Now take another example of that MIT research also that we can take, that fake news is spread 6 times faster than that of the real news. Why? Because of the lack of the digital ethics. Next comes is point number 4, and that is lack of a strong social media law. Lack of a strong social media law in our country. Social media law in the country. With respect to that, we'll discuss an issue called hashtag activism. These days are the days of hashtag activism, and this one such word, hashtag activism, it has gained the prominence during the farm protest or during those agricultural laws protest. During the agricultural laws protest, this word gained its prominence. As of what? As of, you see, there were around 250 accounts, or you can say 250 suspicious accounts. 250 suspicious accounts on Twitter, this microblogging platform Twitter, 250 accounts, and the government of India asked Twitter to block these 250 accounts. इसलिए तुम इनको block कर दो. Why? Because of the suspicious activity and threat to the public order. Twitter initially blocked all these 250 accounts. Twitter blocked these 250 accounts. Now, without even asking the government of India, Twitter decided to restore the access of these 250 accounts. मतलब that means government was not even consulted. Government को पूछा भी नहीं उन्होंने. कि without even asking the government, they decided to restore the access back to the accounts, and when the government issued them the legal notices. अब government ने legal notice issue किया, so they said, sir, these accounts are not violative of the policies or the internal policies of Twitter. मतलब तुम जाओ ऐसे कैसे कराओ अपनी national security public order एक तरह. These are not violative of the internal policies of Twitter. That means by an internal scrutiny we have found out that they are not violative of our policies. Your policy doesn't matter to us. Don't you think it reveals a kind of complex relationship between the government and the social media platforms? And why? Why is it the case? Because of lack of a law. Because of lack of a law. Now let me further elucidate it. You see, last year Turkey has come up with a wonderful law, and that law was with respect to social media. That law defines the role and responsibilities of the social media platforms. That balances the issue of right to speech and expression and right to privacy versus national security. That also fixes the responsibility of the data fiduciaries. That means how you will be storing the data, how you will be processing the data, what would be the framework that is defined for those social media platforms. There is a dire need to come for any such law with respect to India, which we are currently missing with respect to social media. The next point in the series would be polarization of society. Polarization of society on the religious lines as well as on the ideological lines. एक सेकंड बस ये कंप्लीट कर लो, उसके बाद बेटा आराम से. Polarization of the society on the religious lines as well as on the ideological lines. Polarization, you understand, right? Religious lines. First example can be taken with respect to Nupur Sharma controversy. Second could be taken with respect to the issues like mob lynching in the country. Third can be taken with respect to, please, it's a fake news, let me tell it to you beforehand only. There was a fake fatwa. It's a fake news that spread on the social media platform that there is a fake fatwa which has been issued from Saudi Arabia. And that fatwa says that Muslim men can feed on their wives. Muslim men can feed on their wives means what? Cannabis eating, flesh eating, cannabis eating. They can feed on their wife. This is a fake news. It's a fake fatwa, but it gained high prominence on the social media platforms. In fact, the leading social media platform plays a very important role in the spread of such hatred. Next would be promoting the communal ideas as of abusing the religion, abusing the idols or abusing the religion. Every now and then you see a number of controversial posts on the Facebook which are abusing the gods or the idols of particular religions. thereby spreading the communal ideas. With respect to ideology, radicalization by using the social media platforms, as well as promotion of the extremist viewpoint by using the social media platforms. Extremist viewpoint by using the social media platforms, or promoting radicalization by using the social media platforms. Of course, you can also associate the case of social engineering over here also. You can also add the propaganda warfare over here also. Okay. And the last is, just write down in a line, number अपने हिसाब से डाल देना. I'm just writing the title. Okay, let me write. Fake advertisement to make quick business gains. To make quick business gains. हाँ, separate point है. Fake advertisements, or you can say propagation of the fake advertisement to make quick or cheap business gains. To make quick or cheap business gains. Of suggestion gains, GAINs. Now, what could be the suggestions with respect to these issues? That these are merely the facts. The facts will be covered in handouts. ठीक है? उसमें लिख लो suggestions that will be covered in the handouts. That will be covered in the handouts. ठीक? Now with this we come to the end of this part, social media. I have explained, I have just provided you the entire issue with respect to the social media in the elaborative format in your yellow book also. ठीक है? Yellow book में as it is जैसे हम लोगों ने heading से deal किया, I have written it over there also. मिला नहीं yellow book अभी? मिल जाएगा. ठीक है? Sooner or later it will be delivered to you people. I hope in 10-15 days you will be getting the yellow book. Now go through whatever you have written for a minute. In case you find any difficulty, do let me know. But silently, please. Don't make noise. Take a minute or two. Go through whatever you have written. In case you face any difficulty, do let me know. 2 minutes के बाद. Fair enough. See, as regards balancing this issue of fake news as well as right to freedom of speech and expression is concerned, first of all, you see what is the core or the streamline idea behind it. You see, you have the every right to use your Article 19, that is the right to speech and expression, but that should not result in any of the internal security issue, or that should not result in any of the internal security disorder. Fake news can be one such example with respect to that. And with respect to this maintenance of this balance between the two, why it is happening? Because we are not having the strongest of the regulations with respect to the social media platforms. Like, though we have come up with certain set of guidelines in 2021, in the IT ministry has said in those guidelines, first of all, it has classified those social media functionaries into 2 categories, as social media functionaries as well as significant social media functionaries. That divides, that this demarcation is merely based on the number of the social media users. And they have set certain set of grievances, so they have set certain set of guidelines for those social media platforms to tackle the fake news. Like, tackle the fake news means, like, it is, if it is with respect to any particular community, any particular individual, any society, in that case scenario, they have to appoint a grievance officer, and that grievance officer should take an action within 24 hours of receipt of such a complaint, and within 15 days you should provide the amicable solution to that. As well as there is there are certain set of, you can say, issues with respect to that, you see, as regards removal of any content that affects the sovereignty of the country, territorial integrity of the country, which further, you can say, the number of fake elements are there, number of fake news is there, which within the social media platforms. So such set of guidelines are the one which are issued as for the time being. But yes, when we talk about the balancing the issue with respect to fake news and this right to speech and expression, that is only possible by reaching to a conclusion in terms of bringing a very sound law for that purposes. ठीक है? जब तक हम एक सोशल मीडिया के लिए लॉ लेके नहीं आएंगे, till the time the things are not going to be sorted out for us. Yes, anything else? हाँ, बोलो. Fine. When we talk about internet apart from social media also can be resulted in the propagation of a number of type of crimes that are known as internet crimes. They are equally a danger to the internal security. We have taken the case of cyber security. There we have not discussed the case of social media. They were a separate set of different set of crimes. So internet, that means propagation of those crimes over there. When we talk about social media, with reference to those aspects that we have already done. Clear? Because you see, internet is a very huge term, right? देखो, सोशल इंजीनियरिंग का मतलब क्या होता है? सोशल इंजीनियरिंग मींस बिस्तर मंगा दूं, हाँ, बिस्तर मंगा दूं, फिर तुम्हें ऐसे गजरा पहनना उधर हाथ में, और फिर उसके बाद कहना सर अब नाचो, हाँ. Come on, you are going to be the civil servants. You can't be tired at so early stage, right? चलिए, 9 घंटे कैसे बैठोगे ऑफिस में? आप पता है मिनिस्ट्री में सैलरीज कटती है आईएएस ऑफिसर्स की, बायोमेट्रिक्स लगे हुए हैं वहां. चलिए, हाँ, आप में से क्या पूछ रहे थे आप? सोशल इंजीनियरिंग. बेटा, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट सोशल इंजीनियरिंग, सो सोशल इंजीनियरिंग इज बेसिकली by using the social media platforms, they are trying to manipulate the, you can say, the mindset or the ideology of those radicalized or the orthodox youth. What is the purpose? So that they start following the narratives which are propagated by those terrorists, or by those terrorists which are taken to the social media platform. One such example that can be cited for it is like there were a number of youths which have been there in Kerala because of their close resemblance with the Salafism or the Islahi movement. The ISIS is always targeting the Kerala, or you can say Kerala is always at the epicenter in their recruitment agenda to fill their ranks by the radicalization, and they are utilizing social media as a potent tool by using the social engineering. आप कुछ पूछ रहे थे बेटा पीछे? हाँ, पूछो. सोशल मीडिया को देखो, एक बात करते हैं. सोशल मीडिया की अगर बात करें तो when we talk about banning can't be the full time solution ना. By social media, no doubt in the fact, though we have not discussed those aspects, but it has given the new wings to the democracy. It has given the new wings to the Article 19 in terms of people or the underprivileged also expressing their opinion on number of social as well as political matters, which opinions were, you can say, they were not regarded earlier. They have changed the dynamics of the entire political setup of the country. So you can just banning the social media cannot be an amicable solution. But yes, whenever anything, whenever, no matter whether it is social media, no matter whether it is a law which is offering challenges to internal security, the reforms can be a middle way out. ठीक है, ऐसे तो बेटा ये भी सॉल्यूशन हो सकता है कि हम इंटरनेट को बैन कर दें, सारे साइबर क्राइम ही खत्म हो जाएंगे, है ना? दैट कांट बी द सॉल्यूशन ना. फाइन, चलिए, हाँ प्लीज. What could be the ways to inculcate the digital ethics? See, first of all, you see, as regards our major agencies are concerned, certain they have been entrusted with the responsibility of promoting the awareness. In fact, when we talk about the elements of cyber security, one of the key component over there is end user education. That is promoting awareness among the users. It is, we are the one who are never going to, sorry, the cyber criminals are the one who are never approaching us, but we are the one who are directly going to the cyber criminals. So awareness is something which is going to play a very important role in breaking this nexus. Second important aspect, like with respect to this, is media literacy, and another like building a very sound rebuttal mechanism, fast fact check mechanism. The WhatsApp is the one, as well as YouTube is the one which is having the AI based softwares to remove this content automatically. Like this, there are multiple number of efforts that can be taken in that direction. ठीक है, छोटे छोटे generalized solutions ही हैं इसके, कोई इतना कोई technical significance नहीं है. हाँ, please. Yes, fair enough. What they are using is VPN for the purposes. ठीक है, बहुत सारे को हम बैन कर चुके हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम उनको अलाउ करते हैं. नंबर ऑफ VPN से बहुत सारे जो उनके प्लेटफॉर्म्स है बेटा, उनको वो साइमल्टेनियसली क्रिएट कर लेते हैं. और उसके साथ एक और प्रॉब्लम भी है कि वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा बहुत सारे ऐसे उनके मॉड्यूल्स हैं विच आर रनिंग ऑन द डार्क नेट. ठीक है, जो डार्क नेट पे चलते हैं, विच इज नॉट एक्सेसिबल समटाइम्स बाय द एजेंसीज टू. ठीक है, चलिए, एनीथिंग एल्स? कहां पे? हाँ, नो, दैट इज मोर और लेस अ मैटर टू बी डिस्कस्ड बाय योर IT फैकल्टी, एंड मोर ऑफन आई अवॉइड कंट्रोवर्सीज. ठीक है, ठीक है. IT वाला जो सर है ना आपके, आई थिंक राहुल सर, ठीक है, he is the one who will be taking your IT lectures. ठीक है, I won't be jumping into the IT areas. I will be restricting myself to social media and cybers only. Yes, raise that question to him for that purpose. Anything else? हाँ बोलो. State government is the one which is making. अब जो बेटा बोलता दिखा ना, you will answer her question, right? Got it? Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. There is no point behind putting the mask, right? I can identify you, son. हाँ, please say it loudly so that he can answer. हाँ. The state governments are the one which are creating certain set of agencies on the temporary basis for like the issues like women exploitation, like the issues like cyber attacks. Yes. Absolutely. Fair enough. That can be the solution for that purpose. Now, gentlemen, comment on to what she said. Got the question? I repeated the same question. Now you got to comment on to that. Otherwise, you'll have severe consequences. You can consider me as Armed Forces Special Powers Act and yourself being from the a suspect. Got the question right? Yes, yes, yes. You only. You're one with the specs, right? Tell what she was asking. Answer her. Tomorrow you are going to be an IAS officer, if with God grace, because that is the only possibility. Yes. Tell what she was asking. आप क्यों चुप हो गए? अभी बोलो. But as regards, that is what we call as resistance to change. Resistance to change, that is what I said, na? Resistance to change on part of the political bosses in terms of formulation, resistance to change on part of the bureaucratic structure in terms of implementation. ऐसा नहीं है, we are having a very sound and concrete structure in terms of the institution, but they are suffering from the varieties of issues, like I have taken that case of overlapping of functions which further results in the duplication of efforts or no efforts on part. Okay, so those issues, lack of the central agencies, etc. The same goes with respect to social media also. ठीक है, रेजिस्टेंस टू चेंज। हमारे पास इंस्टीट्यूशनल सेटअप तो बहुत अच्छा है। चलिए साहब, next topic that we are going to start is Naxalism. Write down the question that they have asked this year. With respect to what? No, they are totally 100% funded by the union government. States are not having any mechanism. 100% funded by the state union government. State की कोई scheme ही नहीं है. Now, Naxalism is the worst form of left-wing extremism in our country. Is the worst form of left-wing extremism in our country. But before we move on to left-wing extremism, let's just see what actually is extremism. What is extremism? Question लिखाऊंगा इसके बाद चल. Extremism. Extremism refers to deviation from mainstream ideology. Deviation from mainstream ideology. We don't have any universally accepted definition of extremism. So it simply refers to the deviation from the mainstream ideology. Mainstream ideology means what? Deviation from a balanced narrative or deviation from a balanced viewpoint. Deviation from a balanced viewpoint or deviation from a balanced narrative. Accordingly, extremism has taken a two-way form. In terms of left-wing extremism and right-wing extremism. Left-wing extremism and right-wing extremism. Now let's try to see the difference between left-wing and right-wing first, and then we'll see how these extremist tendencies are the one which are utilized. Left-wing, in terms of their political theory or political thought process, the left are considered to be more liberals. Sirf political theory mein, only in political theory. Liberals as of what? Liberals like they support LGBT rights, they support abortion laws, they support same-sex marriage, etc. But when we talk about the right wing believes that those liberal ideas, they are against their traditional values. They are against their tradition. And typically, these right wing, they are referred as trads. They are referred as what? Trads. Though this term for the very first time was used in US, but yes, it has its universal acceptability. That means what they consider these liberal ideas as a transgression onto their traditional values. Now, second is in terms of their economic philosophy or economic theory. The left believes that state means government. The state should assume the central role. In devising the economic policies. That state should assume a central role in devising the economic policies. Means what? All the factors of production, they must belong to state. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, they must belong to state. Means what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, what to give, when to give, how to give. That will be decided by what? That will be decided by state. Second, they believe putting more taxes on rich. They believe in putting more and more taxes on rich. To give rich ka matlab kya hai? Symbol of capitalism for them. So they believe that the rich are the ones which are associated with the concentration of wealth. So put more and more taxes on this rich. But when we talk about this right wing, so they believe in coexistence of the private sector. They believe in coexistence of the private sector. मतलब क्या? That private sector should be allowed to grow parallelly with the public sector. Private sector should be allowed to grow parallelly with the public sector. That means welfare shall be done by the private sector. ठीक है sir? Now, second is, in the second point itself, they don't believe in putting more taxes on rich, rather they believe in uniform taxation. Rather they believe in uniform taxation. वो साहब uniform taxation में believe करते हैं. ठीक है? Uniform taxation का मतलब क्या होता है? In India, प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन. जैसे हम इंडिया में प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन फॉलो करते हैं. ठीक है? फॉर एग्जांपल, जिनको नहीं मालूम उनके लिए बता दें. लेट्स से मेरी कोई इनकम है, मान लो एक कुछ है इस साल में, तो ऐसी सिचुएशन में कितनी है क्या करोगे जान के यार, है थोड़ी बहुत जितनी भी है. ठीक है? हाँ, जितनी आईएएस की सैलरी नहीं, उससे ज्यादा टैक्स भरता हूं मैं, इतनी है. नो नो. हाँ, बहुत है, चिंता 150 बीघा जमीन है मेरी यूपी में. पढ़ाता तो मैं शौक के लिए हूं. नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट दिस इशू, तो भुला दिया ना तुमने. हाँ मैं जानता हूं. ठीक है? यूनिफॉर्म टैक्सेशन. अब बेटा देखो, इंडिया में हम प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन फॉलो करते हैं. ठीक है? प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन का मतलब क्या होता है कि जैसे जैसे हमारा इनकम ब्रैकेट बढ़ता है, ऐसे ऐसे हमारा टैक्स भी बढ़ता है. सर अब मान लो मान लो आपकी कुछ इनकम है. ठीक है? तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में अगले साल आपके इनकम में मान लो 15-20 लाख रुपए का ग्रोथ हुआ, 15 to 20 लाख ग्रोथ. योर टैक्स स्लैब इज समथिंग विच विल ऑल्सो बी शिफ्टेड. इफ अंबानी इज मेकिंग 15,000 करोड़ पर एनम एज एन एक्स्ट्रा इनकम, हिज टैक्स स्लैब विल ऑल्सो बी शिफ्टेड. उसका भी हिसाब उसके हिसाब से. तो मीन्स इट इज इन प्रोपोर्शनेट विद द इंक्रीज इन योर इनकम. इट इज नॉट दैट गवर्नमेंट विल टेक आउट द एंटायर और स्क्वीज आउट द एंटायर वेल्थ ऑफ द अंबानी. ठीक है? अब देखो सर, नाउ दे दिस right wing government, they majorly believe in being a regulator. They believe in being the regulator. वो regulator बनते, मतलब they believe in being the regulator. They are not the controller. इधर क्या है? controller. इधर क्या है? regulator. I hope you understand the meaning difference between the two. Regulator means what? Regulate. ये मत कहना सर, to those who regulate. Regulator. Take an example. ठीक है? एक एग्जांपल देके बता देता हूं. वैसे आपने जैसे इकोनॉमी में रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज यू माइट हैव ऑलरेडी स्टडीड. ट्राई हो गई, सेबी होगी, IRDA हो गई. हाँ, अब देखो, जैसे लेट्स कंसीडर द एग्जांपल ऑफ अ फैक्ट्री. लेट्स से वी आर हैविंग अ फैक्ट्री. द प्रोडक्शन रेट ऑफ दिस फैक्ट्री इज वेरी हाई. द प्रोडक्शन रेट ऑफ दिस फैक्ट्री इज वेरी हाई, सो इट इज ग्रेटली कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू द जीडीपी. ठीक है? ये जो फैक्ट्री है, इसका प्रोडक्शन रेट हाई है, तो इट इज ग्रेटली कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू द जीडीपी. नाउ ऑन द अदर हैंड, लेट्स से दिस फैक्ट्री इज डिस्चार्जिंग वेस्ट. दिस फैक्ट्री इज डिस्चार्जिंग वेस्ट. मान लो रेडियो एक्टिव वेस्ट. This factory is discharging the radioactive waste in open, which is resulting in serious health hazard with the people residing nearby. Now, can I put it like that? The cost of the growth of this factory is being paid by the people of the locality in terms of their health expenditure. Bilkul. The factory is growing, but at the cost of the health of these people. Now the government will jump as a regulator. Means what? Government will issue them warning, government will issue them fines, government will ban them according to the nature of the crime that they are possessing. Crime in the sense that violation of the order of the government. That means government has allowed that factory to increase its, or you can say to contribute greatly to the economy and increase its production, but never at the cost of the health of the people, never compromising with the welfare function. And the last, according to left, state and religion, क्या relation है दोनों के बीच में? Separate. State and religion are separate, means the two must not intervene into each other. अब right wing क्या कहती है ये आप बताएंगे मुझे. What does right wing talk about religion in state? हाँ, religion got to play an important role in devising the state's policy. Religion has an important role to play in devising the state's पॉलिसी. स्टेट की पॉलिसी को डिवाइस करने में रिलीजन का इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है. These days are the days of romantic nationalism. These days are the days of romantic nationalism, and this romantic nationalism is associated with the right wing. Always with the right wing. अब मुझे बताओ, a term of the newspaper lexicon, romantic nationalism. कहीं पर डिफाइन नहीं है, किसी किताब में नहीं लिखा, एक्सेप्टेड टर्म नहीं है. Now, what is romantic nationalism? What is the meaning of romantic nationalism? Huh? Culture of custom. As of what? ना एक सेकंड वन भाई लेट मी कम। हाँ बोल रहे थे कुछ। ठीक है गुड। रैशनल थिंकिंग नहीं करने का। अच्छा ठीक, तुमने एकदम से बदल दिया अपना व्यू पॉइंट। चलो ठीक है करेक्ट। सपोर्ट no, and that's an extremist viewpoint, son. Considering your nation as best or superior, fine, accept it. But as a tertiary argument, it's a weak argument case. हाँ और कुछ? Any idea? Also give me one event also. हाँ और सर टीका भी ऐसे लगा रखा है। कंसेप्ट ऑफ अखंड भारत नहीं, ठीक है वो एक एस्पेक्ट है उसका। एग्जांपल ठीक है, पर एग्जांपल बिल्कुल सही दिया तुमने। रेडिकल थॉट्स अबाउट, हाँ हाँ ठीक है अबाउट व्हाट, ठीक है विद रेस्पेक्ट टू नेशनल सेंटिमेंट्स, ठीक है। अब और कुछ? हाँ प्लीज। अच्छा पॉलिसी के लिए अगर पॉलिसी में सफर करना पड़े नेशन, ना वो तो जस्टिफाइड नोशन है ना बेटा। पीपल कैन सफर बिकॉज ऑफ नेशन फर्स्ट, राइट? रिपब्लिक नहीं देखते हो तुम? नो। यस एनीथिंग एल्स प्लीज? हाँ आप सही जा रहे हो, ठीक है। ग्लोरिफिकेशन ऑफ हिस्ट्री, राइट डाउन कोट अनकोट। रोमांटिक नेशनलिज्म बिलीव्स that comma the state is going to derive its political legitimacy from the traditional values। उसमें कस्टम्स भी आ जाएंगे, उसमें हिस्ट्री का ग्लोरिफिकेशन भी आ जाएगा, उसमें अखंड भारत भी आ जाएगा, ठीक है। दैट मीन्स द स्टेट इज गोइंग टू डिराइव इट्स पॉलिटिकल लेजिटिमेसी फ्रॉम द ट्रेडिशनल वैल्यूज एंड इट इज इक्वली एविडेंट इन द पॉलिसीज ऑफ राइट विंग गवर्नमेंट्स, जैसे अमेरिका फॉर अमेरिकन बाय ट्रंप इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ व्हाट? रोमांटिक नेशनलिज्म। अब लिखो क्वेश्चन जो इस साल पूछा था, राइट डाउन। नक्सलिज्म is more of a social, economic and developmental issue. Social, economic and developmental issues. बहुत सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन। डिस्कस। अब थोड़ा सा मुश्किल एलिमेंट आ जाएगा, लिखो व्हाट आर द emerging trends? What are the emerging trends with respect to Naxalism? Suggest a multi-layered strategy to deal with Naxalism in India. Suggest a multi-layered strategy to deal with Naxalism in India। बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन था, नो डाउट। 15 मार्क्स एंड 250। बहुत सिंपल है। चलिए सर, बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस लेक्चर यू विल बी इन अ कंडीशन टू राइट इट। Naxalism. If I say Naxalism was an event of 1967 at a place called Naxalbari, in West Bengal, year 1967, where the tribals revolted against the zamindars. They revolted against the zamindars, which resulted in mass level violence, and henceforth it came to be known as Naxalism. It would be a very shallow definition of Naxalism. It would be a very shallow or academic definition of Naxalism. Naxalism was not an event of a day. Rather, ये जो काट दिया उसको क्या लिखने की जरूरत है? Now don't focus on writing, listen to it. ठीक है, सुनना जरूरी है इस टॉपिक में। And please one request, please don't refer this topic from any of the book apart from what I am saying or apart from the handout till the time you are selected in UPSC. उसके बाद आप चाहे नक्सल्स बन जाना, I don't mind. क्यों? Let me tell you that because there is not even a single book that provides a very balanced narrative with respect to Naxalism. Either they are pro-Naxalism or they are against Naxalism. वो Naxalism से जाते जाते right और left पर पहुंच जाते. So please don't refer to any of the books. ठीक है? और internet तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं. Now, when we talk about Naxalism, so Naxalism was not an event of a day. Naxalism was not an event of a day. Rather, Naxalism was a culmination. Naxalism was a culmination of a number of tribal uprisings that have continued in the pre-independence era and which have sustained in the post-independence era. Naxalbari violence of 67 was just an episode in the process. Naxalbari violence of 67 was just an episode in the process. Now listen to this again. It was not an event of a day. Rather, it was the culmination of a number of tribal uprisings that have sustained in India from the pre-independence era, going to the post-independence era, continued in the post-independence era, and Naxalbari was just an event in the process. Now, as regards our approach with Naxalism is concerned, we'll be taking a 3-point approach with respect to this topic. First, Naxalism as a tribal uprising. Naxalism as a tribal uprising. Second, ideological support or ideological nourishment to Naxalism. इसका मतलब क्या बेटा? Communist movement. Ideological support to Naxalism. And the third is emerging trends. Emerging trends, or I can say status quo. Emerging trends, or I can say status quo, present status with respect to Naxalism. So take a fresh page, make down a separate heading, main heading, Genesis of Naxalism. Genesis of Naxalism. And the first subheading under that would be Naxalism as a tribal uprising. Naxalism as a tribal uprising. Naxalism as a tribal uprising. Now, one by one. So, if I can repeat the same statement as I said before, that it started as a number of tribal uprisings from the pre-independence era. Or I can put it like that tribal discontentment can be traced from the pre-independence era itself in the form of a number of revolts that we have seen, like Birsa Munda tribal uprising, Birsa Munda tribal uprising, like the Worli revolt, like the Worli revolt, like the Santhal uprising, like Gundan Rampa tribal uprising, like the Kol uprising, like the Gaunts uprising, and many more to go in the process. Birsa Munda, Worli revolt, Santhal uprising, Gundan Rampa, and Gaunts revolt. Collectively, if I can provide you a figure, I can say from 1793 to 1900, almost in a century, there were events of 110 violent tribal uprisings. There were events of 110 tribal uprisings, fortunately or unfortunately crushed. Fortunately or unfortunately crushed. It's a controversial term, fortunately or unfortunately crushed. One of the major reasons that can be cited for this tribal discontentment was economic oppression by the Britishers. Economic oppression means in terms of what? In terms of monopoly over the forest resources. In terms of what? In terms of monopoly over the forest resources. Means Britishers always wanted the monopolization over the forest resources. As a result, the poor tribals were subjected to economic exploitation or economic oppression. Or I can say lack of penetration on part of the British government in the tribal areas. Lack of penetration on part of the British government in the tribal areas eventually contributed to the tribal discontentment. which could be highlighted, which could be seen. The result can be noticed in the form of those 110 violent uprisings as we have written over there. Lack of penetration on part of the British government means in terms of the developmental policies, Britishers were quite clear with the revenue policies. That means more agriculture means more revenue means more development. Less agriculture, less revenue means less development. Tribal areas are the areas of difficult terrains and dense forest. So very marginal development in those areas, which eventually resulted in the incitement of the violence in terms of the tribal discontentment or those 110 tribal violent uprisings. But our question is not this. Our question is why it continued even after 47. But in 47 it should have stopped. Now we are an independent nation. We are in a democratic setup. These tribals are equally our subject. We were never the subject of Britishers. Chalo, that is justified on that part. Ki, theek hai sahab, they were here was exploitators. But why they continued even after the 47 also? They continued after the 47 also, or if we can talk about a number of the post-independent tribal uprising, they can be highlighted as protest against Koel Kano project. Protest against Koel Kano project in Bihar. Protest against the Koel Kano project in Bihar. Second, Odisha tribal uprising. Odisha tribal uprising. Third, Bastar uprising. Third, Bastar uprising. आपने post independence era में ये सब पढ़ा होगा. Bastar uprising. Apart from that, you can take an example of formation of Bhumi Sena in, yes, where? Maharashtra. Formation of Bhumi Sena in Maharashtra. So the tribal discontentment continued even after the independence also. Take an example. Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Andhra, Telangana, West Bengal. Chhattisgarh, Andhra, Jharkhand, Telangana, West Bengal. These states account for 85% of India's coal. These states account for 85% of India's coal resources. These states account for more than 80% of India's tribal population. They account for more than 80% of India's tribal population. And these states account for 98% of India's Naxal activity. They account for more than 98% of India's Naxal activity. और इसमें महाराष्ट्र और जोड़ दूं तो 100 कर सकता हूं मैं इसको. Means what? What is the correlation? Please listen again. Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Andhra, Telangana, West Bengal. They account for 85% of India's coal resources. They account for 80% of India's tribal population. They account for India's 98% of the Naxal activities. What is the correlation? The correlation is that in the name of the development, the poor tribals have been displaced from their natural habitat and without any sound facility of rehab. That means in the name of development, those poor tribals have been displaced, but with no sound facility of rehab. 2022 data, 54% of the tribals which have been subjected to displacement have not been subjected to the rehab facilities. They have not been subjected to the rehab facilities. So if I can make a conclusive remark, I can say it is merely the face of the oppressor that have changed. The government have changed. The policy to a greater extent have remained the same. It is merely the face of the oppressor that has changed. Merely the face of the oppressor that has changed. The policy to a greater extent has remained the same. It can eventually be evident in the form of other policies also. Take another example. 1971 census. 1971 census. 1971 census says 4% of Indians were having the majority of the Indian lands. 4% of Indians were having the majority of the Indian lands. 60% of the Indians were landless. 60% of the Indians were landless. 60% ऐसे भारतीय थे जिनके पास जमीन नहीं थी. And the majority of the lands were occupied by 4%. And you see, by this time, 9th schedule has already arrived. Zamindari has already been abolished. Zamindari was abolished, but redistribution has not been done. Zamindari to sahab aapne abolish kar di, but redistribution of the land has not been done. The data shows the concentration of the land in the hand of few. As a result, the poor tribals were again the victim of exploitation as well as oppression by the dominant communities, by the dominant caste. So the tribal discontentment continued even in the post-independence era. Now make the second heading, and that is ideological support. Ideological support. We have not arrived to the Naxalism as of now. Ideological support. Ideological support to the tribal uprising or ideological support to Naxalism. ठीक है? Ideological support means the communist support, or I can say communist movements in India. Communist movements in India. जब भी हम नक्सलिज्म के सपोर्ट की बात करते हैं तो किसकी बात करते हैं? लेफ्ट की करते हैं ना. लेफ्ट इज द वन व्हिच इज गिविंग द आइडियोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट. सो कम्युनिस्ट. So let's study the communist movement first and let's see how they have contributed to Naxalbari or Naxalism. Pre-independence era. Pre-independence era. They were not able to attain anything significant in the pre-independence era. It all starts off 1925 establishment of Communist Party of India. 1925 Communist Party of India was established. What was the source of inspiration for the establishment of CPI? The Bolshevik Revolution or the Russian Revolution. It was also known as the Great October Revolution. The Great October Revolution of 1917. In this revolution, Mr. Vladimir Lenin, Mr. Vladimir Lenin emerged as the major leader. ठीक है, लेनिन साहब इसमें सबसे बड़े लीडर उभर कर आए. Now it is an example of what? हम जब इसको वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में पढ़ते हैं तो कैसे पढ़ते हैं बोल्शेविक रेवोल्यूशन को? It was a bloodless coup that was orchestrated. It was a bloodless coup that was orchestrated under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin. So it was a source of inspiration for the communists in India, which led to the establishment of Communist Party of India in the year 1925. But as the Communist Party was established, so there were certain other reasons also which were responsible for gaining communist movement, which were responsible for giving it a momentum. मतलब ठीक है, देखो Bolshevik revolution for sure was a kind of the major inspiration that they drew from. Now there were certain other reasons also for its establishment, like failure of non-cooperation movement. Failure of non-cooperation movement. Failure of non-cooperation movement. This was one such movement that was started by Gandhiji and it was regarded as the final strike onto the British rule in India. Now suddenly Gandhiji decided to call it off. Gandhiji ने फिर इसको suspend कर दिया movement. Suddenly Gandhiji decided to call it off. Now the youth which always act as a bloodline to any movement, this was left leaderless. This was left leaderless. Leaderless why? They left their families, they left their homes, they left their jobs, and Gandhiji joined Gandhiji in this process, and Gandhiji decided to call it off. Don't you think there is a leadership vacuum now? Who is going to provide them the leadership? Communist. The initial cadre of the communist in India to a great extent comprised of the unsatisfied youth from the non-cooperation movement. The initial cadre of the communist in India comprised of the unsatisfied youth of non-cooperation movement. Third, I told you about tribal uprisings. Tribal uprisings, 110 in nature, in number, 110 in number, all failed. Or I can say, I can use a word, all were crushed. Why? अब इसका जवाब आप मुझे दो. ये सब 110 के आसपास ट्राइबल अपराइजिंग हुई, ये सारी की सारी क्रश क्यों हो गई? Why? लीडरशिप. ठीक है, गिव मी वन कॉन्क्रीट वर्ड फॉर इट. ऑल इंडिया कैरेक्टर नहीं था इस मोमेंट में. ठीक है, ठीक है, स्ट्रगल बिटवीन द ट्राइब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. ठीक है, बट आई एम टेकिंग दोस एज टर्चरी पॉइंट टिल द टाइम आई गेट अ सॉलिड पॉइंट. हाँ, अपने इंडिपेंडेंस के लिए लड़ रहे थे. जस्ट रिएक्शन, नॉट प्लान्ड, अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड, नो मास मोबिलाइजेशन. ठीक है, टर्चरी है बेटा ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स. यस, गेट मी अ कॉन्क्रीट वर्ड. यू वांट टू से समथिंग प्लीज. ओके, ठीक है. अब मैकेनाइज्ड वेपनरी वर्सेस ट्रेडिशनल वेपनरी, बट ठीक है, इसको सेकेंडरी पॉइंट रखते हैं हम अभी. इट्स अ गुड पॉइंट, यस, नो डाउट. द सेम गोस ऑलरेडी सेड, बट ठीक है, एक्सेप्टेड, गुड. सॉरी, लीडर्स ने उनका इशू नहीं उठाया. ठीक है, ये भी बात सही है आपकी. ठीक है, फ्रैगमेंटेड थे. ठीक है, बट सेकेंडरी पॉइंट है. गेट मी वन कॉन्क्रीट वर्ड. No, this is not accepted. I'm not buying this argument for the time being. Yes. Anything else? हो गई खत्म. पार्लियामेंटेरियंस तुम्हारे जवाब. अब देखो बेटा, even violence requires an ideology. Even violence requires an ideology. Example दो मुझे इसका मॉडर्न टाइम में फटाफट. Violence cannot sustain without ideology. Do you consent? You should consent. Now, Al Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban, Boko Haram, they all form the example of those terror outfits. They are terror outfit result. Their acts are the one which are resulting in the mass level killings. But even violence cannot sustain without ideology. What is the ideology of Al Qaeda? Political resurgence of Islamic Caliphate. They try to associate their ideology, their identity with what? With the political resurgence of Islamic Caliphate. ISIS believes in the concept of what? Believes in the concept of territorial heaven. Those kingdom which are having boundaries which will be run on the periton of the Islamic principle. Taliban talks about what? The implementation of the purest of the Islamic principles called Sharia laws on the pious land of Afghanistan. This is how they came to power in 96 and they were in power till 2001. After that, they were ousted from the power by United States of America's end. So now the point is that even violence cannot sustain without ideology. Ideological support was provided by the communists. Every major tribal uprising in the post-independence era is associated with the support of the communists. Now, next and the last point is that CPI in its initial days of formation, they always accused Indian National Congress of being a middle class party. They always accused Congress of being a middle class party. Middle class party means what? मतलब क्या है इसका middle class का? That means they always accused Congress of winning the political freedom. That means you are merely contesting for the political power. You are merely fighting for the political freedom of the country. Means what? Means that you just want political power. का मतलब क्या होता है? Right to make your own decisions without any external intervention. So they are merely contesting for this political power. That means right to make your own decisions. But we are the one. We will be fighting a socio-economic battle. We will be fighting a socio-economic battles. Means what? Fighting against all those issues like inequality, fighting against unemployment, fighting against social exclusion, fighting against poverty. So we are leading a socio-economic battles, and to a greater extent there is no doubt in the fact that it acted as an alternative to INC also, and to a greater extent the communists in India enjoyed a great mass appeal too. But when the party was formed in 1925, it was banned by the Britishers after some time. It was banned by the Britishers after some time. Britishers ने साहब इसको बैन कर दिया कुछ ही टाइम के बाद. Now they in 1941, अब आगे क्या होता है? ठीक है, in 1941, at the time of Second World War, when Hitler attacked Russia, the communists in India, they decided to shift their gears and they started supporting the British government in India. आपने शायद मॉडर्न इंडिया में भी पढ़ी होगी बात. Around 1941, at the time of Second World War, the communists they shifted their gears and they started supporting whom? The British government in India. And now the Britishers decided to reward them. What would be the reward? Yes, by lift of the ban. उनसे साहब बैन हटा लिया उनके पार्टी से. By lifting of the ban. Now, communists have to repay. अब कम्युनिस्ट वापस रिपे भी तो करेंगे. How the communists repaid? Yes. कमन बताओ, कम्युनिस्ट ने कैसे ब्रिटिशर्स को रिपे किया? 41 है ये. 42 में क्या हुआ था? क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट. कम्युनिस्ट इन इंडिया अपोज द क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट. द कम्युनिस्ट इन इंडिया दे अपोज द क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट. उन्होंने क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट को अपोज किया था. Now, if I can trace the journey of the communists, it was a good beginning that was made by the communists in the pre-independence era. But their major focus was always on survival and consolidation in the pre-independence era. They failed to achieve anything significant in the pre-independence era. They failed to leave any mark in the pre-independence era. But yes, they made a very significant contribution in the post-independent era or post-independence era. It all starts off with Telangana struggle. timeline is very, very, very important. 1946 to 1951. 1946 to 1951. That will continue in the next class. We'll wind up the proceedings as of now. We'll start off with Telangana struggle in the next class. 1946 to 1951 Telangana struggle. Okay. Those offline students who are not having any doubt can peacefully leave the premises. Now the online students' doubts can be taken. Beta crust means shattered from the beginning, right? Just see if there is any doubt. Yes, Anubhav, as regards your question is concerned, he'll still be charged for the same. Okay, because in the name of propagating the educational parts, because he ended up propagation of that particular fake news itself, right? But no matter whether he was the one who was spreading the educational cause, that was an excuse given by him. Later on, he was the one who was like a very strong supporter of this narrative that you see that such a transfer can be a possibility. It can be taken, Surbhi. Kapil, as regards your question is concerned, that that will deal in the next class itself, right? We have a separate area with this ideological support. Telangana struggle, specifically with respect to Telangana struggle, we'll be talking. Okay? We have just started this part. I presume there are no significant doubts as regards the online students are concerned. So we'll wind up the proceedings and see you in the next session.